Within this video, I'm going to demonstrate how we can create large output graphs that will be interactively updated when using Synthesim's so-called Synthesim mode. This mode of interaction allows us to change the value of parameters while running a model and to observe the results. For example, we could see a value like this and adjust a parameter and see how it ends up changing the values of model quantities like stocks and flows. However, often when we're using Synthesim mode, we'd like to create graphs which show outputs that we're interested in looking at that are large and that occupy a large screen, so they're more easily visible. So one way we can do this is to add an output graph, and we add an output workbench tool, and we select which particular model variable we'd like to use using level. It's a stock, auxiliary, it's an auxiliary variable or a constant. For some reason we want to display that. And then some other source of data. Now here we'll then, having said that, we'll have to pick what mechanism we use. Type of analysis tool should be output or custom graph. In this case we just say graph. So here we have a graph. We can arrange it while we're in this mode. Here we can arrange it to be the requisite size of interest. And we can then run this with Synthesim. For example, here, running it, you'll notice that frequently we will want to display one scenario versus a baseline. So here, perhaps we have a baseline scenario, and I'll create an alternative scenario which has a different parameter value, say this one here, and we can compare this to X for both the alternate scenario and the current scenario. In other words, both of those are data sets that are currently loaded in. Why does it show those two? Well, if we went up here, we can see in data sets, these are the two that are present. Most recent ones that we wanted. If we want to get rid of those, we could select one and get rid of it using this button here. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Just to give a reminder, the key part of that was when we set this up, we selected the variable here, and we selected graph down here, and we selected that we want an output workbench tool. That's issue one. Possibility one. Second possibility is to use what's called a custom graph. Okay, and custom graphs are created over here in this area. They are defined in a separate file, .vgf or .vgd file. And I'm going to we could see how to do this. So I'll call it, graph of X, something like that. Now, I can say here which value X I wish to display, and there'll be this, but I want to know what's involved. So here we have graph of X. Close this, and having defined that graph, again, the graph being defined in this Graphs tab of the control panel, what we can then do is we can add another output object. How do we do it this time? We do output custom graph rather than output workbench tool. And here we pick the custom graph object of interest. Once again, within this mode here, we can go enlarge these graphs in the requisite way. Okay, now having done that, we can go back into this Synthesim mode. You'll notice it's still using this run name, or we could change this to another variable. We had something like 2.16 before. Now, the notable thing here is that while our original graph, that output workbench tool, the first one displays both scenarios, this latter one does not. In other words, this custom graph only shows one scenario. The important issue here is that a custom graph allows you to really easily display multiple variables for a given, for a given for a given scenario, we can put multiple variables here. We'll show them all. We can set whether they use the same scale, etc. But they'll be displayed, unless we fill in something different in the data set, they'll be displayed, these different variables will be displayed with respect to the same data set. If we want to show a given variable for a specific data set, we'd have to fill this in here. So for example, we could say, I want to show this variable x for the current data set, and I want to show x also for the alternate data set. Okay? Now do that. Now I can see both these values. Now you may ask, well, what happens if there is no alternate data set? Suppose I want to create that interactively. Well, we don't have to go back and delete that from this definition. Instead, what we can do is to simply not have that be defined initially. Let me get rid of alternate. Okay. In fact, I'll delete it here, so it's gone. Suppose we haven't defined alternate yet. It's listed here, but we that run can't be found yet. And so if we go into Synthesim now, it will be actually you'll be creating it for the first time. To see that again, let me go back and delete this thing. Okay, here I've deleted it. There's no value here for it because that run in fact does not. Excuse me. Let me go back and delete it. Delete this here. That run does not exist. It's referred to alternate. It says that, but there's no run alternate. In other words, it's not a run that's occurred yet. It's ready to occur here, and if I run it here with another value, okay, there, show it. So if we're going to have a presentation where we anticipate many different runs, one thing we do is we could set it, and we want to show a given variable with respect to those different runs. We could set this up. So for example, I'll say that shown with alternate 2 or something like that. And you notice it says, okay, unable to open that. Well, that's fine. But it has actually processed those changes. So if I, again, it warns me. It warns me here. And if I then go run an alternate 2 scenario in Synthesim mode, excuse me, and I adjust this maybe to be a value of 10, then I've got a situation where it is displayed here. For some reason, it's not displaying down below here. Now it is. Synthesim can be a bit finicky with this. But you'll notice now it's filled in there. So it was just waiting for that scenario to be. Oh, I see. It was hidden by something. Perhaps. Make it 20. Once again, it's being kind of finicky here, but it's showing it in an interactive way in both in the graphs. Anyway, we've looked at 2 ways of outputs of a given variable for multiple scenarios. One is to just use this output workbench tool. Now the issue with that is that sometimes you want to specify more details. For example, maybe you want to display multiple variables, and you may want to go then to a custom graph. But with a custom graph, we will need to list explicitly the names of the scenarios for which it should be displayed. Thanks very much. I hope this information is of help.